I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Peabody City Council Ad Hoc Committee on Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy. Present for the committee this evening are Councilors Gould, Higgins, and myself, Councilor McGinn, as chair. Also present are Councilors Peach, Daigle, Manning, Martin, and Turco. We have one item on the agenda, which is an update on Peabody's Green Community Program participation. In your packages, just as a means of closing out these items that were referred to this committee, were in August 2023 status on Green Community's progress, a September 2023 status of the same, a December 2023 status, also a progress report, and ultimately a letter from April 2024 from the state providing official notification of Peabody's attainment of the Green Community status and notification of an award of $271,560 designation grant. So with all that as background and closing out those items, we finally got there. It took longer than a lot of us had hoped. I'd like to publicly thank Mr. Bellavance and Community Development Department for their perseverance on this. I know they had a lot of struggles along the way here. We had some changing faces with the folks we were working with at the state and the consultants and so forth. Give Mr. Bellavance and his team navigated through all that and got us to where we needed to get ultimately. So thank you for that. But no good job goes unpunished. Now we have this $271,560 designation grant, and we are not eligible for future competitive grants until we spend this money. So the request tonight was to have Mr. Bellavance come before us and let us know what the plan is to spend this money and how that will position us and kind of what we should expect for timing going forward. So with that as introduction, Mr. Bellavance.
Thank you. Good evening. Kurt Bellavance, Director of Planning and Community Development. As Councilor McGinn stated, this has been a long process to move forward and get the Green Community designation. I think part of that process was, as Councilor McGinn said, there was some turnover at the state. We had a little bit of turnover with us and making sure everything was done. We're a large city. We have 28 buildings that needed to be assessed. We have 190 something vehicles. So there's a long inventory and list of information that we have to provide as part of the requirement to the state. So as Councilor McGinn said, we went through that process. We submitted everything at the end of December. And then we worked with the state roughly for the next 6 to 8 weeks to go through all the details and the information that we had provided, corrected anything that we found that they needed or additional information that they needed. And then we had I'd say an administrative approval probably in early March, but they weren't going to make the announcement until later. And then we found out it was going to be Earth Day. So it was almost a 2-month window from when we were told that we were going to become a green community and that the fact they announced that. And then the first step with that, as Councilor McGinn mentioned, is a designation grant. So we got a grant of $271,000, and part of that is that we submitted an assessment of our buildings, in which we have to take a look at those and how we're going to address those to basically make our buildings more green. So we worked with the consultant that had gone through and done the building inventory and put together the assessment of all the buildings. We worked with National Grid on the heating side of that. We worked with PMLP in regards to lighting. And then what we did was this entire list that we had of all the buildings that we submitted to the state and they reviewed. We worked with Jim Hafey in the facilities department in regards to what we thought would be the most attractive or the best opportunity for us at this time. One of the things that we were looking at is National Grid has an incentive program that expires at the end of the year. So we want to take advantage of that. That mostly addressed weatherization of buildings, a lot of insulation, addressing caulking, all those types of things that goes with making your home or your building better insulated and more efficient. So what we did was we met with Jim Hafey and the mayor to talk about the list of what we had to go through. And mostly we tried to spread that around throughout the city. So we have a list of the city hall, there's the fire station, the libraries, some of the schools, the senior center. We've gone through all of those. We wanted to leave certain buildings off, like the police department. We didn't want to invest anything in that building yet to see what happens with that and let that process kind of pan out. We looked also at the high school. We know that we're looking at a new high school. So one of the key projects was spending $1.1 million on updating the lighting. And we thought, well, let's hold off on that before we invest our grant and our own money in that. So what we wanted to do is we took a close look at the weatherization of buildings, mostly because the National Grid had the matching grant. And I'll give you, for an example, City Hall. So the cost to weatherize City Hall would be roughly $54,000. $34,000 would be the National Grid grant, and then the other $20,000 would be the grant that we got through Green Community. So it wouldn't cost us anything. And then in the long term, or at least the yearly projected savings would be about $3,400 in heating. So right now we range between $21,000 and $28,000 a year in heating, depending on whether we have a cold winter or not. So we want to take advantage of what National Grid had to offer. So we put together a list, worked with Jim Hafey, and we came up with basically about $430,000 worth of projects. Again, we only have $271,000 for the grant, so we were looking to get $230,000 from National Grid. So the total cost for those projects would be that $430,000, but it wouldn't cost the city anything because we'd use part of the grant and then part of the incentives. We also looked at some of the lighting projects. So we're looking at changing over the lighting at the senior center. That's roughly $52,000 to do that. But what we liked about that, it was a 10-year turnaround for savings and investment in regards to that. And the savings per year would be about $5,000 to the senior center once we changed over the lighting. And then the other item that we talked about, because as I mentioned earlier, we wanted to just kind of spread this around and what we could do for in regards to the city and different projects. The Green Community Program really recommends that we do the weatherization first. So for example, if we wanted to change a boiler out in like the West School, the first thing they would do when we submit that request would be, did you do the weatherization? So they highly recommend that we take care of that first, so that when we come with other projects, for example, a boiler, that would include weatherization if we didn't do the weatherization. So as I mentioned earlier, we really want to try to take advantage of the National Grid grants while they're available. And then we're also looking at some heat pumps and piping exchanges. The consultant that helped put together the energy plan has been looking at some of the fire stations in regards to that. So they were out last week kind of getting final prices on that. So we're fine-tuning our application and what we have. So there's some few minor items that we want to get on that list. And so we're just working with them to finalize, and we'll be submitting the grant probably the end of next week. But I'm happy here to answer your questions or give you some more information in regards to that if you have any questions. So thank you.
Questions from the committee? Questions from other councilors? If I could just ask Ms. Belvance, so this culminates with another application, so we need to define exactly to the state how we're going to spend that grant, and then get their permission first. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's correct. We submitted a list that they had to approve, and now we're going back and we're going to basically identify the ones on that list that we'll be seeking or planning to spend the grant money on, and then they'll just approve that again.
And then, so is that a pretty quick turnaround anticipated on that approval? I'm just trying to get a sense of and I'll cut to the chase, how long it's going to take to get the approvals we need, get the work completed, get the money spent, so that we can be in position to apply for future competitive rounds. And then just while I'm on the topic of timing and just what frequency it would make sense to have you come back and kind of let us know. I don't want to ask you to come back quarterly if coming back every 6 months makes more sense based on how the program is laid out. So if you could just kind of help fill in those blanks for us.
Yeah, so we wanted to, that's a good question, because we wanted to make sure that the weatherization that took place in schools gets done over the summer while the schools are empty. They've stated that shouldn't be an issue. The next round of competitive grant funding is in September, so we're not going to be able to apply in September, but we should be in pretty good shape in order to apply for the spring. So the next one will be, I believe, March or April, the next rounding. So we should be complete by the end of this year, this calendar year. So we should be in pretty good shape to apply the following spring for the next round of grant money.
Thank you, Mr. Belvance. Any other, Councilor Gould?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to acknowledge Ron and Sudie Smoller, who have been big proponents of green Peabody and the use of all energy-efficient future. So I'd like to welcome you and thank you for being here and all that you're doing for us. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor Gould. Any other councilors? Any other questions? Seeing none, I think we're all set. Go ahead, Mr. Belvance.
Nope, just a kind of a last statement, a kind of a good news thing. So doing the weatherization projects that we listed, we're estimated to save roughly $25,000 in energy costs for the upcoming year. So once we get that done and installed, hopefully we'll have lower energy costs over the winter for the next winter. And if it's not too cold, we'll save even more money.
Great, thank you for that. And again, thank you for all your hard work on this. Is it your expectation that response, and maybe this is an unfair question to you, I see the mayor sitting right behind you. Is it your expectation that responsibility for this program will reside with your department long term, or will some of it shift over to facilities, or who will own this over the long run?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening to you. Good evening, councilors. Hope everybody's doing well. First, I do want to thank and congratulate all of you for your hard work in being designated as green communities. There's a number of people, the Smollers, Tracy Valetti, a number of people played an important role in helping to achieve that designation. A couple of days after we were notified of the designation, I was at a conference with my colleagues, number of councilors across the state, and I was able to announce that we became a Green Communities member, and I got an extremely loud ovation from the crowd that was there. So it was great to be able to state that after many years of working hard to achieve it. And the council, Councilor McGinn, everybody played a great role in having that happen, so thank you. I anticipate that this will certainly be a team effort, but it will be headlined by Kurt Bellavance and his team. Kurt spent a lot of time, and certainly our facilities department will be involved, Jim Hafey. But I anticipate that Kurt will be heading this up I really like the approach this year because we're able to maximize, through National Grid, we're able to maximize our grant to trigger other grants that would be a savings by combining those money. We were able to do even more. And this just opens up a wide variety of things with our buildings, our vehicles, so many areas that we could utilize those grant opportunities to really make an impact in the city. So I'm looking forward to the work ahead. Again, we probably won't be able to apply until the spring, but I anticipate a lot of work will take place with the council's weighing in on those and recommendations. I think we'll be able to put forward some good packages to really benefit the city in the years to come. So thank you for that again, and I'm certainly available to answer any questions on this important topic as well.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Any additional questions for the mayor on this? Seeing none, again, thank you to both of you, and I will touch base with you, Mr. Bellavance, to try to see what makes sense in terms of timing for you to come back to give us an update. I don't want to do that prematurely and have no new information really at that point. I know there's a lot of work, tactical work to be done here before we can make any high-level progress in terms of moving towards the next round of funding. So I'll certainly give you the space you need to get that done. But I would like to have a cadence here where you come back and kind of keep the council appraised on progress. And with that, if there's no other questions.
Motion to adjourn.
Council's heard the motion. All in favor, any opposed? Vote. We are adjourned.